I am Gabriel, 37 years old, and my sister-in-law just tried to stick me with an $800 bill for a dinner I didn't invite her to. Before I tell you how I turned the tables and taught her a lesson about the laws of physics and finance, let me know where you guys are watching from in the comments. I always like seeing how far these stories travel. Let me start by telling you something about myself. I am a logistics director. My entire life, my career, my sanity, it all revolves around capacity management. You cannot fit a 50-foot container onto a 40-foot chassis. It doesn't matter how much you want it to fit. It doesn't matter if you cry about it. It doesn't matter if you insist that the container is family. Physics does not negotiate, and neither do I. Tonight was supposed to be simple. Tonight was my son Leo's 10th birthday. Double digits. The big 10. If you're a parent or a grandparent, you know that 10 is the bridge between being a little kid and being a young man. It's a milestone. I wanted it to be perfect. I had planned this dinner with the precision of a military operation. I don't leave things to chance. I don't do ish. The guest list was curated. Me, my wife Sarah, Leo's 3 best friends from school, Sam, Mike, and Toby, their parents, 3 couples, and my own parents. That is 12 seats. 12 human beings. 12 place settings. I chose Luca's Italian Steakhouse. Now, for those of you who know good food, you know a place like Luca's isn't a chain restaurant where you can just slide some tables together. It's old school. Mahogany wood, dim lighting, waiters in white jackets who scrape the crumbs off the table between courses. It's the kind of place where you make a reservation 3 weeks in advance. Which I did. I requested the alcove. It's a semi-private space in the back of the main dining room. It has one long table, perfect for conversation, away from the noise of the main floor. I wanted Leo to feel special. I wanted him to feel like a king holding court. Everything was set. The appetizers were pre-ordered to hit the table at 6:45 p.m. sharp. Calamari for the kids, bruschetta for the adults. I had confirmed the head count with the restaurant twice. But there is one variable in my life that defies all logic. One variable that ignores capacity, budget, and common decency. My sister-in-law, Brenda. Brenda is 42 years old, and she is what people nowadays call the golden child. I call her a natural disaster. You know the type. She's the one who borrows money and calls it a gift when you ask for it back. She's the one who shows up to a potluck empty-handed and leaves with the biggest plate of leftovers. She believes the world owes her a living, and unfortunately, her parents, my in-laws, Robert and Susan, have spent 40 years convincing her she's right. I didn't invite Brenda. I didn't invite her husband, Todd. I didn't invite their 3 teenage kids. And I certainly didn't invite Brenda's best friend, Misty, or Misty's 2 toddlers who scream at a decibel level that can shatter glass. So, imagine my state of mind when I walked through the heavy wooden doors of Luca's at 6:30 p.m. I was adjusting my cufflinks, feeling good. I had my hand on Leo's shoulder. He was clutching a new Lego set I'd given him earlier, grinning that gap-toothed grin. Sarah looked beautiful, though I could feel her hand trembling slightly in mine. She always gets nervous before family gatherings, mostly because she knows her sister is a ticking time bomb. But I squeezed her hand. "It's going to be fine," I told her. "Brenda isn't coming. It's just us." Famous last words. I approached the host's stand. The maitre d', Marco, is a man I've known for 5 years. Usually, Marco possesses the calm demeanor of a bomb disposal expert. Nothing rattles him. He's seen spills, fights, and declined credit cards without blinking. But tonight, Marco looked pale. He looked like he was about to cut the wrong wire. He was sweating. "Mr. Gabriel," Marco said, his voice tight. He forced a smile for my son. "Happy birthday to Leo." "Thanks, Marco," I said. "We're ready for the alcove. The rest of the party should be here any minute." Marco winced. He actually flinched. He leaned over the stand, whispering so Leo wouldn't hear. "But, Mr. Gabriel, we have a situation." My stomach dropped. "What situation?" "Your party," Marco whispered. "They arrived early, and there are more of them than we anticipated. Significantly more." I frowned. "That's impossible." My parents are parking the car. Sam's parents are 5 minutes out. No one is here yet. Marco cleared his throat. Your sister-in-law, Mrs. Brenda. She arrived 20 minutes ago. She said she was taking charge of the seating. I felt the blood drain from my face. I looked at Sarah. Her eyes went wide. Brenda, Sarah whispered. I didn't tell her the time. I didn't invite her. Who is with her? I asked Marco, my voice dropping to a low growl. Everyone, Marco said helplessly. Her husband, her children, her parents, and others. A lady with 2 babies. I didn't wait to hear more. I walked past the host stand, turned the corner into the main dining room, and stopped dead. My carefully reserved alcove, that sanctuary I had pictured for weeks, looked like a frat house cafeteria after a football game. The table for 12 was full, but it wasn't Leo's friends. Sitting at the head of the table, in the seat specifically reserved for the birthday boy, was Brenda. She was holding a wine glass, laughing loudly, her head thrown back. Next to her was Todd, looking like he was already 2 drinks deep. Next to them were their 3 teenagers, all on their phones, ignoring the world. And filling out the rest of the chairs were my in-laws, Robert and Susan, whom we had not invited because we wanted a stress-free night, and a woman I recognized as Misty, Brenda's high school friend, along with 2 toddlers who were currently banging silverware against the imported china plates. Clang, clang, clang. 10 people, none of them invited, and standing awkwardly in the hallway, looking like refugees at a border crossing, were the actual guests. Leo's best friend Sam, Sam's parents, and my own mother and father. They were huddled together, holding gifts, looking at the table where Brenda was holding court. My mother looked at me, her eyes asking a silent question. What is happening? I felt a heat rising in my chest. It wasn't just anger. It was a violation. This was my son's night. Brenda saw me. She didn't look ashamed. She didn't look embarrassed. She threw her arms up, nearly knocking over a water glass. Gabriel, you're here, she shrieked. Surprise! The entire restaurant turned to look. We decided to make it a real family affair, Brenda announced, gesturing grandly to the table. You can't turn 10 without the whole village, right? We got here early to secure the spot. I told that stiff guy at the front that we were the Sterling party. He tried to give us grief about numbers, but I told him to just squeeze in some extra chairs. I looked at the table. There was no room to squeeze in a napkin, let alone 10 more people. The alcove was designed for 12. There were 10 people sitting there, and their coats and bags were sprawled over the remaining 2 chairs. Brenda, I said, my voice low and level. Where is Leo going to sit? Oh, we'll figure it out. She waved a dismissive hand, reaching for the bread basket. She ripped off a piece of crusty bread and stuffed it in her mouth. The kids can squeeze into a booth or something. Or maybe the adults can stand and mix. It's a party, Gabe. Loosen up. Todd poured himself more wine. We ordered a few bottles to get started, he said, holding up a bottle. I looked at the label. A Barolo, a 2018 vintage. That bottle is $140 on the menu. I counted. They had opened 3 bottles, for $120 in wine, before I had even sat down, before my son had even been greeted. I looked at Leo. He was standing by the entrance, clutching his Lego set. He wasn't looking at the food. He was looking at his Aunt Brenda occupying his birthday throne. He didn't look happy. He looked defeated. He looked like he knew, deep down, that his special night had just been hijacked. That look on my son's face, that was the moment the switch flipped. Get up, I said. The table went quiet. Misty's toddler stopped banging the spoon. Excuse me? Brenda laughed. It was a nervous, high-pitched sound. Gabriel, don't be rude. We're family. We drove 40 minutes to be here. You weren't invited, I said. This is a reservation for 12. There are 12 invited guests standing in the hallway. You are occupying their seats. Get up. Well, you can't just kick us out. Brenda's voice rose, attracting the attention of diners 3 tables away. That's humiliating. Look, Just tell the waiter to push some tables together. We'll make it a big long table. The more the merrier. I looked at Marco, who had appeared at my elbow. Marco, I asked, can we combine tables? Marco shook his head sadly. I am sorry, Mr. Gabriel. It is Saturday night. We are fully booked. I cannot block the fire aisle. The capacity of this section is strict. Fire marshal regulations. I turned back to Brenda. You heard him. Move. Brenda crossed her arms. Her face set into that stubborn, entitled mask I had seen 1,000 times. The mask she wore when she borrowed money she never paid back. The mask she wore when she dropped her kids off at our house for a quick hour that turned into a weekend. No, she said. We are seated. We have ordered. We are staying. If you want to be a terrible father and ruin Leo's birthday by making a scene, that's on you. But I am not moving my family. She picked up a menu. Now, I think I'll have the lobster risotto. I stood there for 3 seconds. In my line of work, you constantly assess liability and leverage. If I screamed, I lost. If I physically removed them, I went to jail. If I sent the invited guests away, I ruined my son's night and damaged my relationships with his friends' parents. But there was another option. The logistical pivot. I looked at Marco. I saw the panic in his eyes, but I also saw the respect. He knew me. He knew I didn't stiff people. He knew I was a man of my word. I put a hand on his shoulder and guided him a few steps away. Marco, I said softly, do you still have the executive room available in the back? The one with the AV equipment? The boardroom? Marco's eyes lit up. The boardroom? Yes, it is empty, but it is separated. It is very quiet. Perfect, I said. Move the Sterling birthday party, the real one, to the executive room. Set it up for 12. Move the flowers. Move the cake. And them? I tilted my head toward Brenda's circus. They seem comfortable, I said. Leave them exactly where they are. They are a separate party. Understood, Marco nodded. And the billing? This is the part where you need to pay attention. This is the moment I decided to let gravity do its work. I pulled my wallet out. I extracted my card. Not my personal debit card. My corporate black card. This card covers the party in the executive room, I said. The 12 guests I invited. No one else. Not a penny more. And table 4? Marco asked, glancing at the empty wine bottles Brenda and Todd were guzzling. Table 4 is an independent group, I said clearly. Treat them as walk-ins. Separate check. Do not authorize any charges to my card from that table. If they try to put it on my tab, you decline it. Is that clear? Marco smiled. It was a small, sharp smile. Very good, Mr. Gabriel. I will inform the server immediately. I walked back to the lobby. I gathered Leo, my wife, my parents, and the other families. Change of plans, I announced, putting on my best host smile. There was a mix-up with the main seating, but Marco has upgraded us to the private executive suite. Much more exclusive. Follow me. Leo's face lit up. A suite? Like for VIPs. A suite, I promised. Just for us. We bypassed the main dining room entirely. I led them down the side corridor, past the kitchen, into the quiet sanctuary of the back room. But before the door closed, I had to do one last thing. As we walked past the archway of the main dining room, Brenda spotted us leaving. Where are you going? She shouted, half rising from her chair. We found another table, I called back, cheerful and vague. You guys stay there. Enjoy the food. We'll catch up after dessert. Oh, great, Brenda yelled, sitting back down. She looked triumphant. She looked at Misty and laughed. See? I told you he'd handle it. Order the calamari for the table. I heard her scream to the waiter. And another bottle of that red. We love it. I saw her point aggressively at the menu. I saw her pouring another glass of the Barolo. She thought she had won. She thought she had bullied me into expanding the party, absorbing her intrusion into my budget like I always did. She thought the Bank of Gabriel was open for business. I closed the heavy oak doors of the executive room. The noise of the restaurant vanished. "This is nice," Sam's dad said, looking around at the wood paneling and the pristine white tablecloths. "Way better than the main floor." "Nothing but the best for Leo," I said, and I meant it. But as I sat down, I checked my watch. 6:55 p.m. The fuse was lit. Brenda was ordering lobster. She was ordering wine. And she had absolutely no idea that she was eating on her own dime. Before we get to the explosion, and believe me, the explosion is coming, you need to understand how we got here. You need to understand that what happened at Luca's wasn't a one-time thing. It was the climax of a 10-year saga. People ask me, "Gabriel, why is your sister-in-law like this?" The answer lies in the architecture of my wife's family. My wife, Sarah, is the younger sister. Brenda is 5 years older. In any normal family, the older sibling blazes the trail. In Sarah's family, Brenda scorched the earth, and Sarah was expected to plant the seeds back in the ash. My in-laws, Robert and Susan, are good people on paper. They volunteer at the church. They bake cookies. But they have a fatal flaw. They enable Brenda. They have created a monster by never, ever letting her face a consequence. When Brenda failed college, it was the professor's fault. When Brenda got fired from her marketing job, it was the boss's jealousy. When Brenda's first marriage fell apart, it was because the guy was too controlling. Which, knowing Brenda, probably meant he asked her to stop spending their rent money on handbags. And then there's the money. My relationship with money is simple. I work hard, I invest, and I save. I grew up with a father who worked in a warehouse. I know the value of $1. I'm a silent partner in a few ventures now, including a small stake in the logistics firm that supplies half the restaurants in this city, but I don't flash it. I drive a 4-year-old truck. I wear sensible boots. Brenda drives a leased luxury SUV she can't afford. She wears designer labels that still have the tags tucked in so she can return them later. She lives for the image of wealth without the labor of it. Let me give you the receipts. I keep a spreadsheet. I'm not joking. It's titled The Brenda File. Exhibit A, Leo's 5th birthday. 5 years ago, Brenda promised to handle the entertainment. She said she found a great deal on a bounce house. "I'll book it, you just Venmo me the deposit," she said. I sent her $300. On the day of the party, no bounce house. A dozen 5-year-olds standing in the backyard, crying. When I called Brenda, she said, "Oh, the company canceled last minute. Can you believe it?" Later, I found out she never booked it. She used the $300 to pay a speeding ticket so her insurance wouldn't go up. Did I get the money back? No. My mother-in-law, Susan, told me, "Let it go, Gabriel." She was too embarrassed to tell you the truth. Don't make her feel worse. Exhibit B, the emergency car repair. Last year, Brenda called Sarah crying. Her car had broken down on the highway. She needed $500 for a new alternator or she couldn't get the kids to school. Sarah was in tears, begging me to help. "It's for the kids, Gabriel." I sent the money directly to Brenda. 2 days later, Brenda posts a photo on Instagram. She's at a spa with Misty. The caption, "Much needed self-care day. #blessed. When I confronted her, she said, "Oh, Todd fixed the car himself, so we saved the money. I thought you wanted me to be happy." That was the moment I stopped giving cash. I told Sarah, never again, but the pressure never stopped. My in-laws constantly drop hints. "Gabriel, you just got that promotion. Brenda is struggling with the mortgage. Maybe you could help them refinance." Or, "Gabriel, you guys are going to Disney? It's a shame Brenda's kids have never been. Maybe if you all shared a villa, it would be affordable for them." Translation: you pay for the villa, they crash in the spare rooms. This entitlement has bled into everything. They view my bank account as a family resource. They view my patience as an infinite renewable energy source. Which brings us back to tonight. The reason I was so militant about the reservation was that I knew Brenda was sniffing around. 2 weeks ago, Sarah was on the phone with her mother. I heard Sarah say, "Yes, Mom, we're doing Luca's for Leo's 10th. It's his favorite." I signaled to Sarah to stop talking, but it was too late. The intel had been leaked. I knew Susan would tell Brenda, and I knew Brenda would see this as an opportunity. See, Brenda loves to play the rich aunt role without spending a dime. She loves to show off to her friends like Misty. Oh, we're having dinner at Luca's. My brother-in-law is taking us. We're very close. She brought Misty tonight not because Misty likes Italian food, but because Brenda wanted an audience. She wanted to sit at the table, order the expensive wine, and have Misty think, wow, Brenda really has it made. She was banking on my social awkwardness. She was banking on the fact that I wouldn't cause a scene in a nice restaurant. She was banking on the fact that I love my wife and wouldn't want to upset her parents. She was right about one thing. I hate causing a scene. But she was wrong about the rest. She forgot that I am a man of logistics. And in logistics, when a route is blocked, you don't crash into the barricade. You reroute. Sitting in the executive room, watching Leo laugh with his friends, I felt a strange sense of calm. The appetizers arrived. Bruschetta with fresh basil and tomatoes. Fried mozzarella. The kids were happy. Sarah was relaxing, sipping her Pinot Grigio. This room is amazing, Gabe, my dad said, looking at the vintage photos of the city on the walls. How did you swing this? Just lucky, I said, winking at Leo. Marco likes us. I didn't tell them about the war brewing 40 feet away. I didn't tell them that at table 4, Brenda was currently ordering a seafood tower. I knew this because my phone buzzed. It was a text from Marco. Marco, sir, table 4 has ordered the Grand Plateau. $180. And another bottle of Barolo. And the tomahawk ribeye for the gentleman. Should I intervene? I looked at the text. A tomahawk ribeye is a market price item. Usually runs about $120. It's a giant steak with the bones sticking out like a caveman club. Todd ordered that. Of course he did. I typed back, me. Do not intervene. Let them order whatever they want. Just make sure the check is separate. And bring us the calamari. I put my phone down. Sarah touched my arm. Is everything okay? I looked at her. I loved this woman. But for 10 years, she had been a hostage to her sister's drama. Tonight I was going to set her free. Not by fighting, but by letting the truth land with the weight of an anvil. Everything is perfect, I said. Leo is having the best birthday of his life. And he was. The waiters in the executive room were attentive. They treated Leo like a prince. They brought him a kitty cocktail with 3 cherries. They laughed at his jokes. Meanwhile, I could only imagine the scene at table 4. The gluttony, the arrogance, the cheers to us, toasts. Brenda was probably taking selfies with the Lobster, tagging me in them, captioning it, family dinner. She was eating my food. She was drinking my wine. She was celebrating her victory over me. She didn't know that she wasn't eating a meal. She was eating a loan application that had already been denied. The main courses arrived for us. Filet mignon for me, spaghetti for the kids, salmon for my mom. It was delicious. The conversation flowed. We talked about Sam's soccer game. We talked about Leo's grades. It was the peaceful, respectful family gathering I had always dreamed of. And the entire time, the clock was ticking. Tick, tick, tick. Every bite Brenda took was adding to the total. Every sip of wine was interest compounding. I looked at my watch. 8:30 p.m. They would be finishing up soon. The espresso machine would be firing up. And then the bill would arrive. I took a sip of my water. I prepared myself. Because when that bill hits the table, the screams are going to be loud enough to wake the dead. While we enjoyed the tranquility of the executive room, I need to paint a picture of what was happening at table 4. I know this because Marco filled me in later, and because I know these people better than I know my own commute. Table 4 was a spectacle. Brenda wasn't just eating. She was performing. When the seafood tower arrived, 3 tiers of oysters, shrimp, crab legs, and lobster tails sitting on crushed ice. Brenda made sure the entire restaurant saw it. She stood up to take photos. She made Misty pose with a crab claw. She was loud. Nothing but the best, she likely shouted. My brother-in-law insists. Todd, emboldened by the Barolo, was probably lecturing the waiter about the proper way to cut a steak. Todd is a man who works part-time at a hardware store but talks like he runs a hedge fund. He loves to act sophisticated on someone else's dime. He ordered the tomahawk ribeye not because he was hungry, but because it was the most expensive thing on the menu. He wanted to feel powerful. And the kids? Brenda's teenagers were glued to their phones, barely looking up, shoveling expensive pasta into their mouths. They didn't appreciate the food. To them, it was just fuel. Misty's toddlers were likely throwing bread rolls under the table. My in-laws, Robert and Susan, were there too. They were eating, but I imagine they were slightly nervous. They knew I wasn't at the table. They knew I had gone somewhere else. But Brenda had assured them, "Oh, Gabriel is just in the back room with the boring people. He told us to order whatever we want. It's all on one tab." Susan wanted to believe it. She always wants to believe the fantasy where we are one big, happy, communist collective where my money is everyone's money. So she ate the scallops. She drank the wine. She let herself be lulled into the false security of Brenda's lies. Back in the executive room, the mood was different. It was gratitude. Leo's friend Sam looked at his spaghetti and meatballs like it was gold. "This is the best pasta I've ever had, Mr. Gabriel," he said. "I'm glad you like it, Sam," I said. "My dad says this place is really fancy," Sam said. "It is," I said. "But it's not about the fancy food. It's about who you eat it with." I looked at Sarah. She was relaxed. Her shoulders, usually tense whenever Brenda is within a 5-mile radius, were down. She was laughing at a story my dad was telling about his old fishing trips. This was what I was fighting for. This piece. And I knew that in about 45 minutes, I was going to have to defend it with everything I had. Around 9 p.m., we finished our desserts. Tiramisu for the adults, a giant gelato sundae for Leo. The waiters came in and sang "Happy Birthday." Leo blew out the candles. He made a wish. I hope he wished for a dad who has a spine because that's what he was getting tonight. After the cake was cleared, Marco knocked softly on the heavy oak door. He slipped inside, closing the door behind him. He looked like he had just seen a ghost. Or a murder. He walked over to my chair and leaned down. "Mr. Gabriel," he whispered. "Could I have a word?" I wiped my mouth with the napkin and stood up. "Excuse me, everyone. I'll be right back." Sarah looked up, a question in her eyes. I gave her a reassuring nod. "Just settling the bill." I stepped out into the hallway with Marco. The noise of the main dining room hit me. Clattering dishes, chatter, the low hum of a busy Saturday night. "The party at table 4, Marco said, lowering his voice. "They are ready to leave. They asked for the check to be added to yours." "And you told them?" "I told them exactly what you said," Marco replied. "I told them that the Sterling party in the executive room had already settled their bill. And that table 4 is a separate transaction. And," Marco winced, "and the lady, Mrs. Brenda, she is creating a disturbance. She says she refuses to pay. She claims you invited her. She is shouting at Kevin. She is demanding to see you." I checked my watch. 9:15 p.m. Perfect timing. "I'll handle it," I said. "Mr. Gabriel," Marco hesitated. "She is very aggressive. Do you want me to call security?" "Not yet," I said. "Let me talk to them first." "But Marco." "Yes. Keep the receipt for table 4 handy. I want to see the itemized list." "I have it right here." Marco handed me a leather folder. I opened it. I scanned the list. 3X Barolo 2018, $420. 1X Seafood Tower, $180. 1X Tomahawk Ribeye, $125. 2X Lobster Risotto, $90. Appetizers, sides, desserts, cocktails. Subtotal, $1,150. Tax, $90. Total, $1,240. My jaw tightened. They had spent over $1,000. Uninvited. Wait, I thought it was $800? "They ordered more wine after you left," Marco whispered, reading my mind. and a round of limoncello shots. Of course they did. I closed the folder. Okay, let's go. I walked down the hallway. I could hear Brenda's voice before I even saw her. This is ridiculous. This is illegal. You can't charge us. My brother-in-law is in the back. Go get him. He's the one with the money. I turned the corner into the main dining room. The scene was a disaster zone. Table 4 was covered in debris. Napkins crumpled on the floor. Wine spills on the white tablecloth. And in the center of it, Brenda was standing up, screaming at Kevin, the terrified young waiter. I am not paying this, she yelled. Do you know who we are? I am right here, I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the noise. Brenda spun around. Her face was flushed red from the wine and the rage. Her lipstick was smeared. She looked like a messy, angry toddler. Gabriel, she hissed. What the hell is this? This idiot waiter brought us a bill. A bill for $1,200. She threw her hand toward the waiter like he was garbage. He says you paid for your table but not ours. Brenda shouted. Fix this. Put your card down. We are ready to go. The entire restaurant was watching. The couple at table 5 had stopped eating their pasta. The businessman at table 6 was looking over his glasses. This was it. The moment of truth. I walked up to the table. I looked at the mess. I looked at the empty wine bottles. I looked at Todd, who was looking down at his shoes. I looked at my in-laws, who looked terrified. I glanced at the leather folder on the table. I said calmly, sounds about right. 3 bottles of Barolo. Tomahawk steak. Lobster. Inflation is tough, isn't it? Fix this, Brenda demanded, pointing a manicured finger at my chest. She poked me. Stop playing games. We are your guests. I swatted her finger away. You are not my guests, I said. I said it loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. I invited 12 people, I said. They are in the back room. You brought 10 uninvited people, hijacked a reserved table, and ordered without looking at the prices because you assumed I was a doormat. We are family, Todd chimed in, standing up. He swayed a little. He was drunk. You don't treat family like this. Family asks, I said, looking Todd dead in the eye. Parasites invade. Gasps from the nearby tables. Brenda's eyes bulged. How dare you? I don't have $1,200. Gabriel, we can't pay this. Then you shouldn't have ordered the tomahawk ribeye, I said, pointing to the bone on Todd's plate. That's a market price item. Usually runs about $120. I thought it was a set menu, Todd stammered. Like, included. It was, I said. For my guests. You weren't part of the set. Brenda looked around the room. She saw the reality closing in. She saw the manager standing by the kitchen with his arms crossed. She saw the other diners judging her. She switched tactics. The anger vanished, replaced by the manipulative tears. David, Gabriel, please. She dropped her voice to a whisper. She grabbed my arm. Don't do this. Not in front of the kids. Not in front of Mom and Dad. Just pay it. I'll pay you back next week. I promise. I looked at her hand on my arm. Pay me back next week? I repeated. I laughed. It was a cold, dry sound. Brenda, you still owe me $300 for the bounce house from Leo's 5th birthday. You owe me $500 for the emergency car repair last year. You owe me for the vacation rental deposit you forgot to send. I have a spreadsheet. Do you want to see it? She froze. I'm begging you, she said. Tears were forming now. Real panic. My credit cards. They're maxed out. Todd's debit card won't work. We can't pay this. I can't help you, I said. My bill is settled. This is between you and the restaurant. I turned to Marco. Was the service at this table adequate? We tried our best, Marco said, eyeing the mess. Then I suggest you add the mandatory 20% gratuity for large parties, I said loud and clear. Kevin worked hard dealing with this. David, Brenda screamed after me as I turned to walk away. If you walk out that door, we are done. Do you hear me? I will never speak to you again. I stopped. I turned back one last time. Is that a promise? I asked. Can I get that in writing? I walked away. I didn't look back. But I heard the commotion starting. I heard Marco asking for a credit card. I heard Brenda crying. I heard Todd yelling into his phone, probably trying to call a bank that wasn't open. I went back to the executive room. I took a deep breath. I put my smile back on. I opened the door. Who's ready for presents? I asked. Now, there is a piece of information I haven't told you yet. A piece of information that Brenda doesn't know. My in-laws don't know. Even Sarah only knows the half of it. Brenda called me rich because she thinks I have a good salary. She thinks I'm a corporate stooge who got lucky. She doesn't know that 5 years ago, I didn't just get a promotion. I bought in. My logistics company, Sterling Logistics, isn't just my employer. I own 15% of it. And one of our biggest clients? The restaurant group that owns Luca's. We handle their supply chain. We import their wine. We deliver their steaks. Marco knows this. The owner knows this. That's why Marco was so terrified when he saw the chaos. He wasn't just worried about a customer. He was worried about a partner. When I handed Marco my card earlier, it wasn't just a credit card. It was a corporate account that flags me as a Tier 1 VIP. I could have comped Brenda's meal. I have the authority to sign off on a business development expense. I could have waved my hand and made the $1,200 disappear. But I chose not to. Back in the executive room, Leo was opening his gifts. He got a drone from Sam. He got a science kit from my parents. He was beaming. This is the best night ever, Dad, he yelled. I looked at him. I'm glad, buddy. Sarah came up to me. She whispered, Did you pay it? She assumed I had paid Brenda's bill. She assumed I had done what I always do. Clean up the mess to keep the peace. I looked at my wife. I decided to tell her the truth right then and there. No, I said. I didn't. Sarah's eyes widened. What? Gabriel, they don't have money. What will happen? They will figure it out, I said. They are adults. Todd is 45 years old. Brenda is 42. If they can order $100 steak, they can figure out how to pay for it. But Mom and Dad, your parents are part of the problem, Sarah, I said gently. They are sitting there drinking wine they can't afford because they think I'm a safety net. Tonight, the net is gone. Sarah looked torn. She looked at the door. For a second, I thought she was going to run out there and hand them her own credit card. But then she looked at Leo. She looked at how happy he was, completely oblivious to the toxicity just a few walls away. She took a breath. Okay, she said. Okay. It was a small word, but it was a massive victory. We finished the party at 9:45 p.m. Now, the logistical challenge was extraction. How do I get 12 people out of the restaurant without walking past the crime scene at table 4? I flagged Marco down again. Is there a back exit? Through the kitchen, Marco said. It leads to the staff parking lot. I can have the valets bring your cars around to the back alley. Do it, I said. We led the group through the kitchen. The kids thought it was an adventure. Wow! Look at the giant stove, Leo shouted. The chefs waved at us. We stepped out into the cool night air of the back alley. The valet was there with our cars. As I was buckling Leo into the back seat, I heard faint shouting coming from the front of the restaurant. It was Brenda. I could hear her screeching voice echoing off the brick walls. This is theft. I'm calling my lawyer. Brenda doesn't have a lawyer. She has a friend who is a paralegal. My mother-in-law, Susan, came up to my window before getting into her own car. She looked shaken. Gabriel, she said, we didn't know. Didn't know what, Susan? That you weren't paying. We thought, Brenda said. Brenda lied, I said. Brenda always lies. And you always believe her. Susan looked down. But they are in trouble inside. They can't pay. They might call the police. Then maybe Brenda should sell her Gucci bag, I said. Good night, Susan. Drive safe. I rolled up the window. I pulled out of the alley. As we drove past the front of the restaurant, I couldn't help it. I glanced over. I saw a police cruiser pulling up. Blue and red lights flashing. I saw Marco talking to the officer. I saw Brenda waving her arms. "Don't look," I told Leo. "Just look at your Lego set." "Okay, Dad," he said. We drove home in silence. But it wasn't an awkward silence. It was the silence of relief. The silence of a bomb that had been defused, dismantled, and left behind. We got home around 10:30 p.m. We put Leo to bed. He was clutching his new drone, asleep before his head hit the pillow. Sarah and I sat on the couch. I poured us both a glass of cheap wine, the $12 bottle we keep in the fridge. Tasted better than any Barolo I've ever had. "So," Sarah said. "The police." "I saw lights," I admitted. Sarah's phone had been buzzing for the last hour. She had turned it over. Now she flipped it up. 42 missed calls, she said. "Brenda, Mom, Todd, Misty." "Don't answer," I said. She stared at the screen. A text message popped up from Brenda. "Brenda, you are a monster. I hope you feel good about yourself. A rich man stepping on the poor. The police are here. You humiliated us." Sarah read it out loud. Her voice trembled. "Are we monsters, Gabe?" "No," I said. "We are teachers. And tonight was a very expensive lesson." I took the phone from her. "Let me reply," I said. I typed, "Me. I'm not rich because I step on the poor. I'm comfortable because I don't buy $140 wine when I have $40 in the bank. You humiliated yourself." Brenda replied instantly, "Brenda, Mom is crying. You ruined the family dynamic." I typed back, "Me. Mom is crying because she raised a daughter who thinks theft is a love language." I hit send. Then I looked at Sarah. "Block them," I said. "Just for tonight. Give yourself peace." She did. The full story of what happened inside the restaurant came out the next morning. My mother-in-law, Susan, called the landline, the only number we hadn't blocked. She was crying. Apparently, Brenda and Todd didn't have the money. Not even close. They had 3 maxed-out credit cards. Todd's debit card was declined for insufficient funds. They spent an hour trying to call friends to Venmo them cash. They called everyone. They even called Brenda's ex-husband. No one picked up. Eventually, the restaurant manager, Marco's boss, got tired of the scene. He told them he was pressing charges for theft of services. That's when the police arrived. To avoid being arrested, Brenda had to make a deal. She had to leave her driver's license and her iPhone 14 Pro Max with the manager as collateral. Todd had to leave his watch, which was a fake Rolex, but the manager didn't know that yet. They were given 24 hours to return with the cash or the restaurant would file the police report. But here is the kicker. Todd had to drive to 3 different ATMs to scrape together cash from his overdraft protection. You know the fees on that? He probably paid $50 in fees just to get $300 out. They were banned from Lucas for life. Their photo is now taped up in the server station. Do not serve. But the fallout wasn't just financial. It was social. Misty, the friend Brenda was trying to impress? When the bill came and the screaming started, Misty apparently grabbed her toddlers and ghosted. She told Brenda, "I need to change the baby's diaper," went to the bathroom, and snuck out the front door. She stuck Brenda with her share of the bill. Brenda lost her best friend and her dignity in the same night. Sarah listened to her mother's recounting of this on the phone. "It was horrible, Sarah," Susan sobbed. Brenda was screaming at the police. Todd was crying. We had to pay for our own share, and even then we barely had enough cash. "Why didn't you have money, Mom?" Sarah asked. "You ordered the scallops." "Well, we thought Gabriel." "Stop," Sarah said. Her voice was stronger now. "Stop saying Gabriel's name. You ordered food. You pay for it. That's how the world works." I looked at my wife. I saw a change in her. For years, she had carried the guilt of being the lucky one. The one who married a good man. The one who had a stable life. But now she realized that luck had nothing to do with it. It was about choices. We chose to live within our means. Brenda chose to live in a fantasy. And fantasy is expensive. Sunday was quiet. We didn't go to the usual Sunday family lunch at my in-laws. We stayed home. We built the Lego set with Leo. But I wasn't just playing Legos. I was working. I went into my office and opened my laptop. I knew Brenda. I knew that once the shock wore off, the narrative would shift. She would spin this. She would tell everyone on Facebook that I invited her and then dashed on the bill. She would paint herself as the victim. So I prepared the receipts. I screenshotted every text message from the night before. I printed out the email from Marco. Yes, Marco had emailed me at 8 a.m. Subject: Apology and update. Dear Mr. Sterling, on behalf of Lucas, I apologize for the disturbance last night. Your party in the executive room was a pleasure to host. Regarding the walk-in party at table 4, the bill has been settled in cash this morning by Mr. Todd. We have returned their collateral. Please accept this $200 gift certificate for your next visit. We have updated your file. Strictly no add-ons authorized without your direct signature. Respectfully, Marco. I forwarded this email to Sarah. Look, I said. Profit. They paid it, Sarah asked. Todd probably pawned something, I said. Or borrowed from a loan shark. Doesn't matter. It's done. But it wasn't done. Brenda took to Facebook. Around noon, my cousin texted me a screenshot. Brenda had posted a long, rambling status update. Family isn't about blood. It's about who has your back. Some people let money turn their hearts to stone. Imagine inviting family to dinner and then leaving them with the bill just to feel powerful. Karma is real. #toxic family, #betrayal. She didn't name me, but she implied it. The comments were filled with her friends saying, "Oh my God, hun, that's awful." And, "Who does that?" I looked at the post. I felt that familiar urge to correct the record, to post the screenshots, to comment. Actually, you crashed my son's party and ordered lobster. But I stopped myself. Physics doesn't argue with gravity. It just lets things fall. Brenda's reputation was already falling. People knew her. The friends commenting were the ones who didn't know her well enough yet to be owed money by her. Don't engage, I told myself. I filed the screenshot in the folder labeled, Brenda, do not admit. Then came the flying monkeys. In psychology, flying monkeys are the people the narcissist sends to do their bidding. My phone rang. It was Aunt Linda, Sarah's aunt. Gabriel, she said, her voice stern. I heard what happened. I am very disappointed. Is that so, Linda? Yes, you embarrassed the family. Even if Brenda made a mistake coming early, you have so much. Could you not have just been the bigger man? This phrase, be the bigger man. I hate this phrase. It is almost always code for, be the one who accepts the abuse silently. Linda, I said, let me ask you a question. If someone broke into your house and started eating your food, would you pay them for the privilege? That's different. No, it's not. Brenda crashed a private event. She ordered $1,200 worth of food. If you feel so strongly about it, I can send you the receipt. You can reimburse Todd. Be the bigger woman. Linda hung up. I blocked Linda. The herd was thinning. The toxicity was being filtered out of my life, one blocked number at a time. Felt fantastic. A week passed. The silence from the in-laws was deafening. Usually, Susan calls Sarah every day. Now, nothing. Sarah was sad at first, but then she noticed something. She was sleeping better. Her anxiety headaches were gone. She realized that the daily phone calls were mostly just her mother dumping trauma and guilt onto her. Without that infusion of negativity, Sarah was blossoming. Then the other shoe dropped. I found out the details from a mutual friend of Todd's. Remember I told you Brenda had to leave her iPhone as collateral? Well, when the manager held the phone, he saw notifications popping up. Collection agencies. Urgent. Car payment overdue. Final notice, mortgage. Apparently, the wealthy Brenda facade was built on a sinkhole. The incident at the restaurant was the catalyst. Because Todd had to drain his overdraft to pay the bill. A check for their car lease bounced the next day. The leasing company didn't wait. They repossessed the SUV on Tuesday. Brenda came out to her driveway to go to yoga, or pretending to go to yoga, and her luxury tank was gone. This forced a confession. Todd admitted to his parents that they were $60,000 in credit card debt. The in-laws, Robert and Susan, were horrified. But they were also tapped out. They couldn't bail them out this time. The golden child had finally tarnished. Sarah got a call from her dad, Robert, on Friday. He sounded old, defeated. "Sarah," he said, we know about the car." "I heard," Sarah said. "We were wrong," Robert said. It sounded like it hurt him to say it. "We spoiled her. We thought if we just helped her a little more, she would get on her feet. But she never does." "No, Dad, she doesn't. Your husband, Gabriel, he was right," Robert said. "It was harsh, but maybe it was necessary." Sarah cried after that call, but they were tears of relief. The spell was broken. She looked at me. "You saved us," she said. "If we had paid that bill, they would have done it again at Christmas, and next birthday, and graduation." "Physics," I said. "Every action has an equal and opposite reaction." I just stopped absorbing their impact. We didn't see Brenda for 6 months. The next time we saw her was at a Thanksgiving gathering, which we hosted, on our terms. She arrived in a used Honda Civic. She wore jeans, not designer slacks. She was quiet. She didn't apologize to me. Brenda is incapable of apology. But she didn't demand anything either. She ate her turkey, complimented the chef, and left early. She looked smaller, but she also looked real. For the first time, she was living in reality. Todd shook my hand at the door. "Good to see you, Gabe," he said. He looked tired. He was working overtime at the hardware store now. But there was a new respect in his eyes. He knew I saw him, and he knew I wasn't a mark anymore. So here we are. It's been a year since the incident at Luca's. Leo is 11 now. We went back to Luca's for his 11th birthday. Just the 3 of us. Marco greeted us like royalty. We sat in the alcove. It was peaceful. I looked at the menu. The Barolo is now $150. Inflation really is tough. I ordered a glass of the house red. It was delicious. People ask me if I regret it. If I regret humiliating my family in public. If I regret causing my sister-in-law to lose her car, indirectly. I think about it. And then I think about the $800. Or rather, the $1,240. That money is currently sitting in a $529 college savings plan for Leo. It is growing. It is gathering interest. Instead of being turned into literal crap by Brenda and Todd, that money is going to send my son to university. It is going to buy him books. It is going to buy him a future. I realized something that night. Being generous to toxic people isn't generosity. It's funding their delusion. It's paying for the bricks they use to build their own prisons. By cutting Brenda off, I didn't just save my money. I might have actually saved her marriage. They were forced to face their finances. They are in debt counseling now. They are struggling, yes, but they are struggling with the truth, not drowning in a lie. Sometimes, the best gift you can give yourself is a boundary. And sometimes, the best gift you can give a narcissist is a no. A loud, public, unyielding no. My name is Gabriel. I'm a logistics director. And I can tell you this. You cannot fit a lifestyle of champagne onto a budget of beer. And you certainly cannot fit it on my tab. This is the moment that changed everything. When I walked out of that restaurant, leaving Brenda screaming at the waiter, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders that I had been carrying for 10 years. I finally took back control of my life, my finances, and my family's peace. Thank you so much for listening to my story. You have no idea how much it means to me to share this with you. I hope this story reached you. I hope it gave you a little bit of courage to draw your own lines in the sand. Have you ever had a family member try to take advantage of you like this? Did you pay up to keep the peace? Or did you stand your ground? Tell me your story in the comments. I read them all. And please, if you enjoyed this ride, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps more people find these stories, and it lets me know that I'm not alone in believing that sometimes you just have to ask for separate checks.